Hey, what's up guys, it's Apollo Chia here, back with another part of what if Naruto was in a political marriage. And before continuing this, I would like to thank you guys for reaching 1.4k subscribers, as well as I would like to congratulate you guys for the reason for that congratulation is basically that today my channel got monetized, and I would just want to congratulate you and thank you guys and tell you that I appreciate you. It's because of you that my channel got monetized and I can officially earn some change for the work I do, I guess, the content I produce, because I love doing the stuff I do. I just love reading and listening to what is from other creators, and just like Anime King, Naruto the Drug Kage, as well as A&D, AD, and a lot more I just can't pronounce yet. And as well as I want to thank you guys because it's because of you that I am here today, and I want to tell you guys it means a lot to me. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you haven't, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and without further ado, let's continue our story. Oh, by the way guys, at the end of this video I'll be giving you guys shout out, and sorry about the fan noise, it's quite hot here and I don't want to make my videos in basements anymore for a few months. I hope you can cope with that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Half an hour later, Naruto knew that there was something wrong with the tent that he shared with me, but didn't feel like venturing inside to find out what was wrong with it. Directly outside of the tent stood the bed and the table with its assorted portable kitchenware on top. Meanwhile, that something was wrong, something was going on in there that required enough room that all the things that propagated the tent had to be placed outside of it. Anybody in there? Naruto called out. Ah, Naruto, came the muffled voice of Mei. It's fine, come on inside. Okay. Naruto hesitantly opened the flap of the tent to find Mei bathing in a large circular hole in the ground that was filled with steaming water. Mei! Naruto cried indignantly while covering his eyes. What? Close the flap, you're letting all the cold in, Mei said nonchalantly. He dutifully stepped inside and let the flap close behind him. Can you please stop doing things like this? Naruto said, referring to her rather open attitude when it came to her physicality. Things like what? Mei asked playfully. Things like wanting to sleep with me in underwear and... He was cut off. I told you I can't sleep comfortably any other way, and I'm the leader of the rebellion. I need my sleep, Naruto. Naruto sighed, still covering his eyes. Or things like not announcing that you're bathing in our tent. How did you manage to do this anyway? I used an earth juice to lower a cylindrical plot of the earth downwards, then I filled it with water from boil release jutsu. Boil release? You might have heard it called coercive release or stream release. They're all the same thing basically. So that explains how you didn't, but why did you? Why did I what? Why did you make a bath inside our tent? He yelled basically. It's bad day. It's noon. This is my only free time. Okay? One sec. Naruto heard assorted splashing around sounds come from the maze direction. I'm covered up. He lowered his hands from his eyes. Indeed, Mei had covered herself with a towel from a small stack of them on the ledge to her back. Come on in. The water's fine. I thought that I was coming over from training for lunch only. Mei also produced a bento box from the ledge behind her. Naruto didn't feel very many qualms about bathing with another person. So long as she was covered, he didn't have any problem about it. But he still wanted to go back to training, so a bath in the middle of the day would be rather moot point. I can't. I still got to go train after this. I thought that your shadow clones did all the training. Well, it does, but... Mei wasn't going to take no for an answer. Mei, Naruto. Your training really is hard. I can sense that, but a bath isn't going to hurt you, especially if you're not going to be working up a sweat for the rest of the day. Naruto stood in deliberation for a while, longing before finally saying yes. Fine, I guess it wouldn't hurt. Mei smiled at him and tossed a towel in his direction, which he caught with little trouble. Don't look, he commanded. Mei closed her eyes and turned her head to the side. After a bit of sound of cloths running on skin, she heard Naruto tentatively dip himself into the warm water. Mei opened her eyes to find Naruto sighing to himself as the warm water soothed his aching muscles and washed the scent of sweat away from him. Once a few things of heated bliss passed from the married couple, May waited over to with a sponge in hand towards him. Hey, sweetie, mind getting my back? Naruto looked at the sponge with a critical eye before she unwound the towel from her back to allow Naruto access for sponging. Not knowing how hard to press the sponge into her back, he started out gently lathering her back first. May started humming in contentment at the ministration of her underage husband. Frowning, she said, "You don't have to be so gentle." Naruto took this as affirmative to press the sponge harder into her back, roughly sponging her back, made her once again hum in pleasure. This humming made Naruto slightly uneasy, but he didn't stop so to avoid the awkward confrontation. He continued to slide the sponge on her back in an effort to thoroughly clean it. Her back was toned and muscled, completely devoid of any fat or unattractive quality. Her entire body, in fact, was toned and lean. It was body of a konoichi whose job it was to maintain oneself physically. She was a very attractive woman. As he continued to scrub her back, he felt strange sensation in his nether regions. His palace was swelling with blood in arousal. Naruto had gotten a boner before, but never in such close physical contact with another person, making him very nervous and more than a little embarrassed. I think it's fine. I'll do you now. May said, wrapping her towel once more around her back. Naruto nodded dully and passed the sponge off to her. Luckily enough, the water was misty, for the natural minerals too came from the boy release jutsu, so his arousal wasn't apparent to her. He presented his back to her for scrubbing. She began to lather his back much like hers did to her at first. Her gently using the sponge to scrape his back clean from sweat and crimps had a pleasuring effect on him. Despite his aroused state, the pleasure that he felt from her ministration were not erotic in nature. He didn't have anything to attribute to the feeling yet, but anyone with a parent would attribute the feeling to when their mother would rub their backs. It was relaxing. Naruto felt his muscle loosen their tension almost immediately as she continued to scrub his back with the cleaning implement. His body let out a groan against his will. "Having fun, are we?" May said teasingly. Naruto turned a dull red at the jab before hesitantly. "Is it wrong to feel?" Naruto trailed off, not finding the words to describe his feeling. "Love?" May questioned. May finished his sentence for him when he seemed too incapable of finishing it himself. "Naruto, of course it is okay to love Kuretsuchi. I know that it may seem kind of overwhelming, but no, it's not like that." Naruto interrupted her. Is it wrong to feel hatred? No. Jealousy? No. Lackadaisical? What even is that? No. May scrubbed away mindlessly at Naruto's back in thought at what Naruto could possibly be feeling. Figuring it out, she almost slapped her forehead out of her own stupidity. "Oh, I know. You're feeling horny, aren't you?" Naruto turned even duller shade of red and started to splutter out refusals incoherently, but May quickly silenced him. "Of course it's okay to feel horny," she replied with slight enthusiasm. "But I know that the Barbie said that it was okay, but Naruto, an age where your hormones are starting to go wild in your body. Frankly, it would be strange if you didn't feel horny even once in a while." "But what am I supposed to do when I'm horny?" "Well, I'm not a proponent of casual sex, so I suggest that you masturbate to abate your lust." "Well, what about now?" May's eyes grew extremely wide in surprise. "You want to masturbate now?" I don't know if she was cut off. "No!" Naruto said quickly. "I mean, if I'm horny now, then does that mean that I don't actually like Kuretsuchi?" Naruto asked quietly. May lightly bonked Naruto on the head. "Of course not. Arousal is an out-of-mind experience, so just because you feel arousal at another person, it doesn't mean that you're in love with that person, or not even in love with another." It felt strangely comforting to Naruto the way that May explained sexual feeling towards him. Despite what Jiraiya said to Naruto about the subject, it didn't impact him the way that May's word did. She was comforting presence besides Naruto. It felt to Naruto like he could talk to her in faith about things that he was confused about. Unknowing to him, she was starting to feel a sort of Pusero mother role for him. "Thanks, May," Naruto said in relief. "For what?" she asked. "For talking to me about this kind of stuff." It's fine after all. She peered around his back to look at him straight in the eye with a smile on her face. We're friends, right? He smiled back at her in response. Yeah, we're friends. May waded over to her original position at the ledge and grabbed the bento box as she swung over. She took off the lid and tossed it back to the ledge. Inside, the container was filled fried rice balls, a few sushi slices, and some assorted vegetables and meats. There were also only one set of chopsticks. She grabbed the chopstick and swung over to Naruto. Sweetie, open up. May used the chopsticks to pick up a sushi roll and hold it up to her husband. Naruto's sweat dropped. I can feed myself, you know. Oh, if that's how you want to do it, then say, that's okay. Saying that, she gave the bento and chopsticks to Naruto. Naruto gratefully received the bento and began to feed himself from the contents. May grunted. Naruto looked up to see her and her eyes closed and mouth open wide. She opened her eyes to see Naruto's confusing expression. There's only one bento and one set of chopsticks, you know. I'm hungry, she said with a pouting lid. Blushing a bit, he grabbed some of food from the container with these chopsticks and raised it slowly to May's lips. Just as she enclosed her mouth around the food, an extremely agitating rebel burst through the tent flaps with an urgent message expression on his face. May-sama, he shouted out. The Mizukage is here! As if on cue, an explosion was heard of in a distance. May went back into her leader persona and jumped out of water without a moment's hesitation. Where is he? She ordered out to her subordinate, still with a mouthful of food and naked from the bath. There was another explosion in the distance. The shaking shinobi pointed out in the direction of the large explosion. I go engage with him. You, she pointed at the unnamed shinobi. Help out in a way that you can. You, she pointed at Naruto, who was getting out of bath. Stay here and don't die. Fuck that shit, I'm coming with you. No, you aren't, she replied sternly. I'm your wife and it's my responsibility to protect my husband. Well, I'm your husband and it's my responsibility to protect my wife. Naruto shouted at her loudly, disregarding her nakedness. Now wasn't the time for pervies thoughts or being shamed over reproductive systems. May looked at him with a conflicted expression on her face. Right now she couldn't waste any time arguing with her husband, but she also couldn't let him get killed. Naruto got up from the water, naked as well. I'll be fine. I'll have to help. Fine. You go with him, she said, pointing at the unnamed shinobi. And make sure that he doesn't die. Okay, got it. Follow me, the shinobi shouted at Naruto. Naruto bent down and grabbed a kunai from his clothing pile with hastily wrapped around towel around his waist. Got it. A shinobi battlefield is a very different thing that one shinobi fights, as he soon realized. For one thing, there was only chaos within the fights. No time to think. No time to see, no time to move. People die indiscriminately when they didn't do any of the three mentioned things. A lot of people died. Another thing that he realized is that towels don't like staying unwrapped around one waist while its occupant was fighting. The official Kirigakure shinobi that were fighting the rebels also moved far differently than any normal person. Their movements were jerky and robotic. They also were only capable of fighting a single person at once, it seemed. Not only that, but they didn't seem to be able to register pain and attack with a suicidal patient. The scariest thing about them were their faces, expressionless, unmoving, untalking, unscreaming. Even when one was impaled by a lance of rock, he continued to try and attack the person who impaled him with an expressionless gleam in his eyes. That didn't mean that they were invincible like he done. Once they had a vital organ punctured or they lost enough blood, they fell over on the ground and didn't get up back. Naruto witnessed Chojiro coming into the fray while swinging his huge blade around like a club, cleaving through the shinobi that got in his way through a merit of physical impact trauma and a slight dull edge only. That kid was seriously strong. Naruto formed another Rasengan in his hand with the help of a clone and charged into the fray next to Chojiro. He used the Rasengan to blast away a shinobi that managed to sneak up next to the blue-haired teen and promptly used the earth-walking technique to sink away into the soft earth in an effort to get away from the scene. Chojiro looked around for the sudden help and came up empty. His attention was pulled away when another suicide shinobi ran up to him with the katana. Naruto surfaced a ways away from the fighting and started having for breath immediately. At the academy, they taught that getting one's first kill might come to them as a shock and gave them a variety of exercises that would prepare them for it. Naruto, however, didn't feel anything as he killed the Kirikakure shinobi. They weren't acting like people, they were acting like automatons. Another strange thing about the battle is that the Kirigakure shinobi were losing badly. Anyone would be able to see that continuing the fight would mean certain death to those individuals involved, and yet they continued to fight. The Kagegenkai shinobi had been startled at the static that the enemy had used at the first and lost a lot of good shinobis to that. But they quickly regrouped and began to slaughter the offending shinobi in droves, in herds like they were so much cattle. Boss, a shadow clone of his that was still clothed, walked up to him. In his hand was the Nuibari. Naruto took the handle of the sword from the clone and looked back at the battle. It was happening all over the camp. The Kagegenkai shinobi were quickly wrapping up the battle with the Kirikakure shinobi. It had taken about 10 minutes in total for all the shinobis to be killed in lambs to slaughter. Naruto had managed to incapacitate a few with the same coordinated Rasengan blasts and kill a few with his kunai. What happened? The confused clone asked Naruto. No idea, but it's over now, I guess. The clone dispelled before it could see a glacier of lava shooting up in the air near a wooden area. May, Naruto thought. Naruto was naive in many respects, but he knew that if he went and joined the battle, he would probably be a hindrance to the fight. He had to check though. He had to make sure that she's okay. Naruto ran off to see the battle. Naruto landed on a tree just out of the reach from a strange mist. Inside of the cloud of influence, everything was getting corded down to its basest of levels. The tree was falling down corded at the roots, rocks were getting turned into poisonous slime, and the very soil itself was getting turned into a toxic swamp. Not exactly the most pleasant of areas to be caught in. Although even with all that toxic steam was available to that area, Naruto saw a blast of water dragons, strange coral structures, and lava streams burst out of the cloud very soon often. Every time that a lava stream exited the cloud, Naruto's heart soared. Every time that a coral structure materialized, his heart dropped. Didn't think that the shinobi would stall for so little time, a voice said from directly to Naruto's side. Naruto twirled around and brought the Noibari directly up the preparator throat. Who are you? Naruto asked with a surprised tone in his voice. The man, for his merit, seemed very surprised at the situation as well. He was wearing a black cloak with red clouds on top of it along with a plain white mask. That only had one hole on its obscuring the entirety of the stranger's face. Whoa, wait. You're the ninth-tailed Jinchurikyu. Why are you here? And why are you naked? This guy's a Akatsuki, Naruto deduced from the cloak. Naruto answered the strange man questioning by attempting to behead him. But his sword only went through air as it seemed cleaved the man's head off. Is that Nuibari? The man continued, not even noticing the murder attempt. Genjutsu, huh? Naruto brought the sword down and grazed his shin with a small cut, just large enough to induce a pang of pain on his person. Once the pain subsided, Naruto again attempted to cleave through the man's head and was met with the same level of success. What are you doing out of Konoha? Did you go rogue? A scream of Hawk took his attention away from Naruto. The man just ignored him at this point. I can't take him. Not if I have to wait longer than a few days to expel him from Kamui. Not only that, but thanks to the rebellion leader's stream ability, I cannot get a good gauge of her skills. This has all been a waste of time. Obito looked at Naruto fruitlessly swing his sword through Obito's non-existent body. Is being naked a rebellion thing? Thought Obito. With that last thought, Obito sunk down into the tree and out of Naruto's swinging range. Naruto huffed out in slight excitation. That was weird. His attention was turned once again to the mist. It seemed to be destabilizing, which allowed Naruto to head inside to look at May. Naruto shouted out. The amount of destruction that was left behind by the attack was staggering. His feet clenched into the mud. He had to jump over decaying trees and cooling lava pools. He had to make sure not to touch the destabilizing coral structures out of fear of what might happen to him. "May!" Naruto shouted once more. He heard a groaning sound to his right. Naruto ran over to where the groaning was being pitifully whimpered from and came to the position of looking down at a fallen May. She had a large tree trunk resting on her torso, not letting her get up. "Oh shit!" Naruto grabbed the trunk and tried to lift it up, but it was far too heavy. She coughed feebly and bleary, opened up her eyes. "Naruto." Cough. "Stop it. It's done. It's over." "No, it's not. You're not going to die. Not here, not on me." Naruto stood up straight and spawned huge amount of shadow clones. They all bent over and grabbed various parts of the fallen trunk. "Lift!" The original belt out. Using chakra to supplement their strength, they pulled upwards with as much strength as they had. It was no use. They weren't strong enough. "I'm not done yet." Naruto spawned another load of shadow clones who all took up the position right next to or under the other clones. "Lift!" The original belted out once more. The trunk lifted infinitesimally. The original fell to the ground where May was and grabbed her by her armpits and then pulled her out of under the trunk through the extremely small gap. Her torso was a bloody mess. Her ribcage looked slightly deformed and there were shards of coral jetting out of her thigh. All of the clones dispelled at once, making Naruto sink to his knees in exhaustion. He used too much chakra with that stunt. His body impacted the ground right next to May. He used way too much chakra with that stunt. Naruto couldn't keep his eye open. He could find the will to breathe anymore. He couldn't feel his arms or legs anymore. "May!" he whispered out. Her breathing hitched. She had registered his words. "Thanks." The last thing that he remembered before passing out was a veritable stampede of feet in their general direction. Chapter 22. The Desert in the Desert in the Desert. Tamari spit out the cereal that she was eating out of shock. "You what?" "What the fuck, Tamari?" Kankuro shouted that the mushy bits of half-chewed cereals had gotten dangerously close to hitting him. "We got together," Naruto repeated in response to Tamari's surprised reaction. "Is there something wrong with that?" "No, it's just, I thought that she hit you." "I thought so too." "Are any of you going to clean that up?" Gaara asked dispassionately. "So what made her like you?" Tamari asked, ignoring Gaara's question. "How should I know?" Naruto said. "Because you two got together now. Don't you talk about your feelings with each other?" "Do we talk about our feelings?" "No. Why would we do that?" "Because that's what people do when they're in a relationship." "Have you been in a relationship?" No response. "Exactly. There's not a whole lot of talky-feely. We mostly just have fun. Doing what? You know, training, movies, rock climbing, rock sledding." "Rock sledding?" "Oh yeah. Don't rock sled ever." "Why?" "It's not a pleasant experience." Kankuro decided to butt in. "So you two are just going to ignore the mushy bits of cereals on the counter?" Naruto spawned a clone and told him to clean up the mess. "So how far have you two gone?" Tamari asked. "Gone where?" "You know, gone together." Tamari implied suggestively. "That doesn't clear up anything." "She asked from the level of physical interaction that you had with each other," Kankuro stated. "What?" "Kankuro!" Tamari shouted at her brother. "What? He's a 13-year-old orphan. He doesn't understand your terminology." "Hey, I take that as. And why do you want to know how far we physically interacted?" "Because we're talking about your relationship with your girlfriend. Of course it would come up." "I still don't understand why we're talking about my relationship." "Just answer that question, kid. She won't stop until she knows." "You're 1 year older than me. Don't call me a kid." Kankuro grunted out of affirmative. Naruto looked at Tamari. "We kissed." "Really? When?" "When she confessed that she liked me." "What was that?" "When was that?" "The second day of my arrival to Eva." Tamari smirked in amusement. "When we meet up again, I'm going to tease her so hard about that." "Do what you want," Naruto said grumpily, getting back to his cereal and milk. "Okay, so You learned Kenjutsu in Kumo, where you bonded with the Uchito. Then you learned survival skill in Taijutsu and Kenjutsu with Fu, who slightly deranged. Then you went off to Iwa where you learned some jutsu and got together with Kurotsuchi. So what happened in Kiri? First I apparently the chosen user of the legendary sword Nuibari because it chose me and now I'm allowed to use it in the battle. So that's what that thing was, Kankuro said. After that there was a raid on rebels camp by main forces. Holy shit, are you okay? Tamari asked. Yeah, a lot of people died though. Mei almost lost too and died when she fought Yagura the Mizukage. Then what? Well, when the fighting with everyone else was mostly over, I went over to check on Mei. They were still fighting when I got there, but when it was finished, Mei had been stuck under a log, so I had to get her back out of it. It was a big log, like a big fucking log, so I had to use a lot of shadow clones to get her out of it. I almost died doing it, but the Kyuubi saved me. How's Mei? Her ribcage caved into itself, and there was a lot of pretty deep cuts. There was this weird coral thing that grew into her leg. She was exhausted beyond belief. She survived but was still unconscious when I left. Wow. Yeah, then I got teleported here and Naruto picked up the cereal box that was next to him to see the name on it. Ninja Bites. Pretty wild story. Maybe I should be married off to 5 chicks from 5 different nations. My life definitely would be as boring as it is now. Kankuro brought into the conversation. Yeah, because almost dying because I had to lift a fucking logs is such a better alternative than being boring. Gives you a good story to tell. You can't deny that. I guess not. So, I'm still fuzzy on what you two supposed to do here. Kankuro said. Foster a relation between the two ninja villages of Sand and Leaf. Tamari replied automatically. I got that much, but how you're supposed to do it? Date loudly in public, train together, make me a little niece or nephew? Don't ever joke about that, Kankuro, Tamari said with a deadpan. I'm serious, what are you two going to do? I wasn't forced to date the other 4. Yujito was away on a mission for the majority of the week. Fu took up camp outside of the village. I'm dating Kurotsuchi because I like her, and Mei is a leader of the rebellion, so contract is usually sparse. I don't think that anybody expects us to date each other. So what are you going to do here for the majority of the week? Back at Kiri, Jiraiya said that the whole reason that this circulation between the villages was so I could learn how to control the Kyuubi. Naruto glanced at Gaara, but I don't think that I'm going to be able to do that. Here, Gaara's situation and my situation are two different. I guess that means more training with Nuibari. Well, let's see, you got Kenjutsu under your belt, Taijutsu, Ninjutsu, survival training. Do you have anything else? Genjutsu or elemental affinity training? I don't do Genjutsu and I'm not sure what my affinity is. It's always good to at least be able to detect and dispel Genjutsu even if you don't want to specialize in it. You should also learn your affinity. Who knows? Might be wind. I doubt that. Tamari said. Wind jutsu users are pretty scarce around Konoha. Never hurt to check, Kankuro replied. As promised guys, these are the shoutouts of today's video. Oh, by the way, A.D watched my video and it was quite, fun, I guess. Thanks, my guy. Austin, thank you for watching my video. I know that you constantly watch my videos. Thank you, my guy. And that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and this is Apology and I'm signing out. Peace.